Hi everyone, welcome back to Pythagoras. This video is going to be a practical demonstration of how you can get started with planning your personal finances inside of Pythagoras. Right, so this is Pythagoras inside of my Notion workspace. Once you have duplicated the template, it's going to open up and it's going to look just like this. So I'm actually going to start in the setup guide and I'm going to begin just at the accounts section. All right, so I'm going to review the accounts that are here and I'm just going to make any changes based on my personal scenario. All right, so primary would be my main account. All right, cash, of course, is the cash that I have on hand. Let's say that I don't have a credit card. So I'm just going to click this 6-dot menu here and I can easily click delete or click delete on your keyboard. I'm going to keep a savings account and I'm actually going to change this cash and make this TT dollars cash. And I'm going to duplicate this and make this US cash because I have cash for both Trinidad and Tobago dollar and I also have US cash. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my starting balance for each of these. Let's say in my primary account, I have $8,000. In my TT cash, let's say I have 500. US, let's say I have about 400. And in my savings, we can see that I have, let's just say, $20,000 savings. Right, so as I would have said in the setup guide video, everything that you enter here inside of the setup guide is going to show up in your main Pythagoras on the home page. All right, the setup guide is just using linked databases of each of the main databases of Pythagoras so that you can easily input your information. I'm going to come down to assets. I'm going to keep it as short-term and long-term. Let's say that my short-term emergency fund is $5,000 and let's say my long-term is 10. I will keep the account name. Let's just say this is a Liberty fund and let's say that this is a Liberty fixed deposit. I'm gonna have my provider as Liberty Mutual. And let's just say this is the Money Matters Fund. Okay. Interest rate, let's say this is 1.2%. Let's say this is 3.5% at 5 years. Status for both of them are going to be active. So we're going to put that for both. The short-term emergency fund is not going to have a deposit start date, but my long-term emergency fund, I will put a deposit start date for that. Let's just say that I had this started on the 1st of January, and it's going to mature in 5 years. That would be on the 1st of January, but in 2028. All right. And I can also add in an attachment here for that a long-term fixed deposit, which I have as my long-term emergency fund. All right, moving along to insurance. In the example here, I have the life and critical illness. So I'll just go ahead and put in life and I'll put the same provider as Guardian Group. And I can attach my policy and I'll put the status as active. Now that I have the insurance set up, we can go on to liabilities, right? And liability is essentially any money that you are owing to someone else. So in the example here, I have, let's say, I am owing Jane $1,000 and I would like to pay Jane back by the end of, let's say, by the end of this month. And What I'm just going to do is add very quickly an icon here. Life will be heart, blue heart. And then for Jane, I'm just going to also add an icon here, and I'll put a person, but that is blue as well. Great, so I'm pretty much finished with liabilities. Debtors, so is anyone owing you money? Let's say that John is owing me $900, just like in this example. And the start date, let's say I lent this to John at the beginning of February. And he has not repaid me any money yet. So I'm going to leave the status as not started. Okay, upcoming expenses. So you can enter any upcoming expenses that you have. I'm going to go ahead and use the example of a camera that I have here. And let's say I have $300 saved already for the camera, and I want to purchase this camera at the beginning of May. Great, that's it for our upcoming expenses. Subscriptions, any subscriptions that you have, you can go ahead and add it here. I will just input my Notion subscription, which I have is $327. This is an annual subscription, and you can put the start date. So I would have started this on September 1st of 2020, let's say. I can go ahead and obviously put in a renewal date, which in this case would be September 1st of this year. And this is an active subscription. And pretty much coming down to the end of it is our budget, right? So let's say that I'm actually going to use exactly the same things here from the example, and I'm going to select monthly for the majority of these, except yeah, I'm going to select monthly for all of these actually. And I'm going to leave the status blank for now. Once you have your budget set up, we can go back to the home page of Pythagoras and start putting in our income. Right. I'm actually going to move our setup guide since we are finished with it. I'm going to move it across to the admin page. There is a little section there for it, so that it can be tucked away nicely. And we can easily come back to Pythagoras here. Right, so now we can see that some of our, or all of the information that we would have initially inputted just now into the setup guide is here. I have the balance on all of my accounts. I can look at the main menu and also see my assets. So you will see here the total amount that I have for this asset, which is the starting balance that I would have put in inside of the setup guide. And I have here sum of deposits and deposits. So if I make deposits inside of my monthly expenses, you will see it come up here. So I will show you an example of this. But just to see that all of the information, you can see it because it is a linked database. You can see it right here in the main menu as well. And the same for our insurance policy. The same for the money that we are owing to Jane. The same for the money that John is owing us. Let's go ahead and give John an icon. Let's give him orange. And upcoming expenses of the camera. And go ahead and give this an icon as well. Let's give this green. And we can already see here under upcoming expenses, the progress. We are 12% on our way to saving up for the camera. This is because we have entered the amount that we have saved already. And we have entered, of course, we know how much the camera costs. And inside of the monthly expenses, I will show you how the deposits will also come up here. And the last thing here is our subscriptions, which is our Notion subscription. All right, so let's have a look at the transactions section, and we can input some figures here to really see how Pythagoras handles these amounts of numbers and these figures. So let's say it's the first of the month, and that means that I would have gotten paid at my job, at my day job for the month of, let's say for the month of February. So I'm going to put in here salary, and let's say I was paid $10,000, and the date would have been, let's say it was on the last day of February. Right, you notice that once you add the date, it's going to come down here into February, and that's because this database is actually grouped by date, right? It's grouped by date is month, oldest first, but you can actually hide anything that has no date. I would have left it so that we can make the first entry, but you can hide it after that so that all of your income will be grouped under these nice little toggles here. So I'm going to put the category as salary. I can put the organization as my employer. And I want to make sure that I put the account that this $10,000 is going to. So if you look up here and you see primary, so most of us, our salary goes to our main account or our primary account, unless you have it set to going somewhere else. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to have it go directly to my primary account. So I'm going to click primary, and you'll see that this number here, it now increases from 8,000 to 18,000 because we have now added a transaction to this income database. All right, I can also put in the my pay slip here. I can have that attached here, and that way I have my records with me in case I need it for the future. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is also add in a debtor payment to show you how that works. So if we come back up here, we can see that John is owing me $900. So I'm going to come back. Let's say that John would have given me a payment of $200, right? So let's say payment from John, let's say that was 200, and category, I will create a new one, which will be debtor payment. And you don't have to put anything in for organization, and the account I will put as primary as well. So you will see that this is now, if I go back to accounts, you will see that it's now 18,200. But what we're paying attention now is to this total received property up here in the debtors column. So to ensure that this is updated here for for tracking John's loan payments over time, I want to come across here and click his name under debtor payment. And once I do that, you see that I have total received from John, $200, and you can see that the transaction is also linked here. I can now change this to in progress, and we can see how much is owed. So this is just subtracting the loan amount from the total that has been received to give us $700. So that's an example of how you can track money in the event that you do lend money to people and they owe you back, right? So this is where you can keep track of that. let's go ahead and add in some expenses for the month thus far. So I'm going to click New here, and let's say I eat some food, eating out at Flow Cafe. And let's say I spent $30 there, and this was last week, right? So I can see here now that March is populated. I'm actually going to go ahead and hide this. But here I have my first expense for the month of March. And if I go back to my accounts dashboard and I click, let's say this was I used my main debit card for this. So that's going to come out of my primary account, and we saw that that number just decreased. Right, so I can easily put a category as food and drink here. If you want, you can add in, the organization for further tracking. It's up to you. And under budget, you will notice that we do have an eating out budget here, and it's capped at $500. So this is where I will enter the budget here along with the expense entry. So I'm going to click eating out, and now that that is selected there, if we come to our budget, we see that the bar is now decreased, right? So, right here, and it's moved from the $500 that it was set at to now $470 for eating out. What I do like to do in the budget is sort of set everything as default as budgeted. And as I go off and I pay things like my recurring bills, I would go ahead and switch the status to paid. So let's say I went ahead and I paid my phone bill, and I paid it at $100. Let's say this came from my primary account as well. And my category, I'll put bills and fees. And I will put the budgeted area as phone. And that way we can now see that the phone budget is now decreased to $0. And I can check that off as paid. Right? So you can go on like this, adding in, but let me show you how the assets, adding in the assets and liability payments will work. So let's go across to assets in our main menu. And let's say I am putting some money towards my short-term emergency fund. So let's say asset entry, and I can put short-term emergency fund. Let's say I'm putting $5,000 to my short-term emergency fund. This is coming out from my primary account, and we're gonna put asset deposit. Let's put the organization as Liberty Mutual. I'm not going to put a budget here, but under the asset column, I'm going to select short-term emergency fund. And once I have done that, you will see that it logs this as a deposit here, and my total amount has also changed to $10,000. Let's have a look at an example of if you are repaying a loan that you have taken with someone else. So I have the liabilities menu open here, and let's say that you are payment to Jane. You're currently owing her, remember, $1,000. So let's say you're giving her 500 of that money, and it's coming from your primary account, and you can call this a loan or liability. Well, actually, that will be your liability payment. And we're going to come over here and click Jane's name in the liabilities property of the monthly expenses tab. And you will see that this is updated here. So we have a nice little progress bar that is showing us how much money we still have to pay and how much is remaining. Well, how much your total payments have been, and you can see how much is remaining here. This also relates back to the mobile dashboard. So if you want a quick glance to see how much money you're owing anybody, you can come up here and you can see a nice little gallery view that's showing Jane, and you can see $500 is paid off and $500 is remaining. So that's another way that you can use the mobile dashboard to see things at a glance. All right. And essentially it goes just like this for both insurance, upcoming expenses, and subscriptions. Let's see that we come across the insurance here. And we have, let's say we're going to make a payment towards a critical illness insurance. I'm going to come here and I'm going to create critical illness. And remember, this is in the insurance aspect of the main menu. Let's say this covers us as well for $1 million. But I have no payments here yet. I'm going to leave this as the same. And I can change this to active because I'm about to make a payment. I'm going to put an icon here. Let's see. Critical illness. And right, so critical illness insurance payments, and we can put this as payment 1. And let's say that the monthly payment for that, or rather the annual payment, let's say it was $1,200, and I've already paid that from my primary account. You can have an insurance category here, and I'm going to come across insurance. I'm going to click on critical illness, and now if we come back up here, we can see that we have that payment logged. Total amounts of payment is going to be the $1,200 because that is all that we have put towards this so far. And we can put the policy start date as today, if today is the day that we would have started making our payments towards this insurance plan. So that's an example. We can wrap this column, but this is an example of how you would make an insurance payment. We can do the same for upcoming expenses as well as subscriptions. So everything works quite nicely from the monthly expenses dashboard. You can see here a total of how much money you have spent. You can also come down here and click sum to have a total down here as well, and to see how many things you've spent money on. And over in annual expenses, you will also be able to come across and look at all of the different months as the year goes by, using this toggle. Thank you for watching this video demonstration of Pythagoras. I hope that it was helpful, and I hope that you're better able to navigate the template now that you've watched it. Please let me know if you have any feedback in the comment section below.